The Fitness Gram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues. The 20-meter pacer test will begin in 30 seconds. Line up at the start. The running speed starts slowly, but gets faster each minute after you hear this signal. A single lap should be completed each time you hear this sound. Remember to run in a straight line, and run as long as possible. Your test is over.
And we're back. We made it to episode 3 of the Gym Class Podcast. We haven't been canceled yet, folks. We can't be canceled because it's a podcast, and I'm doing this on my own. But what I mean by that is I haven't given up yet. That would be the equivalent of being canceled. I haven't given up. I'm determined to get this thing going. And thank you, everybody who tuned in to episode 1 and episode 2. Episode 1... after like 3 or 4 days, hit 100 streams, which, might not sound like a lot, but me being the insecure guy that I am, I Googled it. I was curious, is that good? Cause is it good? I don't know if it's good. 100 sounds good. $100 sure would be nice right now if you give me $100 in my pocket, but 100 views on a video, if I post a video and it only gets 100 views, that's terrible. So I was curious. But I looked it up, and apparently if you hit 100 streams within the first 10 days of your podcast, that puts you in like the top 25% of podcasts. So we're in good shape. And thank you. Thank you to all of you who tuned in. Thank you to all of you who streamed, and whether you're watching or listening. If you're listening to this, I don't know if you even know, maybe I didn't even mention this before. You can also watch this. I'm releasing these on video. You can watch the video on Spotify or YouTube. If you're just going to listen, which is totally fine, if you're just going to listen, you can do that on pretty much any podcast platform, like Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio. If there's anybody listening to iHeartRadio, I can't stand iHeartRadio. I have my own beef with them. I'm not going to get into it. But if you are watching me right now, you might be curious why I'm so dressed up. We had open house today at my school. Teachers love to get dressed up for open house. They wear like dresses and stuff, and I am no exception. I am wearing one of my dress headbands from Junk Brands. It's got palm trees on it because I'm still thinking about summer. Kind of miss summer. I'm wearing my chain. I just started wearing chains. I like them. I think they look cool, and I don't usually wear it to work, but I wore it today because I wanted to get dressed up for open house. And I'm wearing this fresh tee from T Public. It's the one that says balls and scooters and hula hoops and jump ropes. It's a brand new t-shirt. I've only worn it a couple times. So for me, that's dressing up. This is as good as it gets, y'all. This is as good as I'm ever going to look. I could use a haircut, but I'm going tomorrow. I'm going tomorrow to get a haircut. So, yeah. What else do we need to cover here? I hope you enjoyed my episode with Coach Ghilardi. I sure enjoyed talking to him. He's a great guy. Really fun to hang out with. I got to hang out with him last summer in New York City. I think I covered that in the last episode. But I was going to release that episode today. This is Monday. This is Monday, and I'm gonna continue releasing episodes on Monday. I was going to release that one today and then save this episode that I'm recording now for next week. But then I started thinking to myself, why am I doing this so far in advance? Like, that's not my style. If I record weeks in advance, then I can't be current. Like, if there's something current I want to talk about, I feel like I can't, and then it's too far in advance. That's not my style. And I do want to start planning ahead more. I want to be a better planner because planning has always been my biggest weakness as a teacher. But at the same time, I gotta do my style. I gotta do my thing. I gotta be creative in my own way. And I'm most creative when I'm not doing things that far in advance. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making sense right now. But anyway, it's just me for this episode. I want to talk about one of my favorite topics regarding teaching, and that is classroom management. Classroom management with regards to discipline, motivation, making sure that the kids in front of you that you are tasked with teaching, making sure that they are actually listening to you and actually respecting you. This is something that I've always prided myself on. Before I became the Angry Gym Teacher, before I was going around speaking and doing comedy gigs and getting keynote gigs, I used to present on classroom management. It was one of my biggest strengths, and I'll get into the history of that and why it became one of my biggest strengths. But it's something I've always been very passionate about, and it's something that I know a lot of teachers struggle with, because I see the Facebook posts and I see the comments. I'm in a couple different Facebook groups for PE teachers, and I see these posts all the time. Teachers that are like, how do I get these kindergartners to listen? They just don't listen. Or these fifth graders are driving me up a wall. No matter how much I try, they just don't respect me. They're disrespectful. They're talking over me. Oh, these third graders, these second graders. It's every grade. And I see it all the time. It's a huge source of frustration. And look, it's something that they don't talk about in college. I went to a great college, graduated from ISU, Illinois State University, one of the best phys ed teacher education programs in the country. But they didn't cover this. They taught me how to make great lesson plans. They taught me how to build a curriculum from scratch, use assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment, all of it. The rock star teacher. They taught me to be a rock star teacher, but they didn't tell me how to actually make those kids want to do what I'm asking them to do. I will never forget the first time a child said no to me when I'm teaching. I think it was a preschool lesson. I'm still in college. This was a clinical. I'm not a licensed teacher yet. I'm delivering this lesson that I spent probably 3 hours the night before planning. That lesson plan was probably 5 pages long. You know how it is. If you went to school to be a teacher, those lesson plans are ridiculous. And as I'm giving the lesson, I notice this one kid's not doing what I asked him to do. So I look at him and I repeat the instructions, and he looks up at me and he says, "No, I don't wanna." And I was like, guys, he said no. Can he do that? I don't know what to do. What do I do? I start panicking. Cause what do you do? What do you do? How do you build a relationship with a child who's just outright refusing to do the work? A child who just doesn't respect you. Okay. You got to build that relationship, but how? And I know some of you are rolling your eyes when I said those words, build a relationship, right? Because we've all seen the memes, the sketches, the videos. Teachers hate hearing those words. Like for example, it's the old stereotype, the old trope of the principal with no teaching experience coming into the classroom with a student who just threw a book at your head. And they're like, "Well, have you tried building a relationship with this child?" And you're like, "How? Don't tell me to build a relationship with, I know I need to build a relationship. We all know that. We know. We don't hate hearing build a relationship because there's no truth to it. We know that the best way to manage our classroom and to get respect from our students is to build a relationship with them. We know that. But how? How do I build a relationship with a child who hates my guts and who doesn't want to be in my classroom? With somebody who's outright refusing to do the work, with somebody who's physically assaulting me? How? Don't tell me to build a relationship with them. Tell me how. Offer me some advice. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. And what I did was I dug up my old presentation. First ever presentation I ever gave to a bunch of teachers was back in 2015, 10 years ago. And it was called Effective Gym Room Management. And the gym room was a play on, when I taught in Chicago, they called the gym room. You know, like if you go to art in the art room, you go to music in the music room, you go to gym in the gym room. It always made me smile because it's like, it's not a gymnasium, it's a gym room. So I gave this presentation. I was working in Chicago Public Schools at the time. I'm gonna fly through this presentation. I'm gonna display it here on, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you'll actually see the presentation as I'm scrolling through. It's not great. I haven't looked at this thing in 10 years, but I'm going to be given this presentation again this year, this December at IAHPERD. Of course, I'm going to update it, and doing this now, going through it, is going to help me see like, oh, I need to change that. I need to update that. And I need to add a bunch of stuff because my journey as a teacher and as an expert classroom manager it's been a big one. And I've come a long way. I've changed a lot since I started teaching. I'm in my 15th year, and my classroom management journey has centered around two very different books. I wish I had them here with me, but I left them at school. They're in my office. I wanted to have them here to hold up. But The first book is called Teach Like a Champion by Doug Lemov. Now, this book, as helpful as it was for me in my first, the first half of my teaching career, this book is not perfect. It's actually downright problematic in a lot of ways. There's some red flags with this book, but there's also some very helpful strategies that I still use today. So I still encourage other teachers to use them too. Just to real quick skim through what's wrong with this book, okay? It was written by a guy named Doug Lemov, who was not a teacher. First red flag right there. Teachers, we hate getting tips and advice from people who have no experience in the classroom. This guy was not a teacher. I don't remember what he actually was. I think it was like a reporter or something. I should know. Maybe I should have done some research before hitting record here. But anyway, what he did do, Doug Lemov, was he went around to schools with teachers who were rated highly effective. And a lot of these teachers taught in, big urban districts with lots of challenges, lots of poverty, lots of baggage there. And he would sit in their classrooms and he would just observe, and he would write down similar techniques. If he saw both teachers in two different cities and two different districts doing similar practices to kind of get the kids to listen, he would write down that strategy and he would give it a name, fancy name, and then he'd write about it. He'd put it up in the book. And most of the book, obviously, is not geared toward physical education. So I'm going to tell you right now, I never actually read the whole thing cover to cover. I took what I could use and apply to my practice. Okay. Now here's a little story about my practice as a teacher. I started my career in Chicago public schools on the west side, and I wanted to go teach in the city. I wanted to go teach in a quote unquote tough school, because if you listen to episode 1, you know my story. I was raised in the church, evangelicalism. I kind of saw it as my own personal mission field. I was already going to be a teacher. So I was like, well, why don't I go teach in a school that has lots of poverty, somewhere where I can make the most difference? It's kind of a problematic motivation. I'm not going to get into that whole thing. It's a little, you could cancel me for that. Let's just say that. Please don't, but you could. Okay. But that was my motivation. I wanted to teach in Chicago public schools. So there was this organization, nonprofit working in Chicago at the time. They're still around, called the Academy for Urban School Leadership. What they do is they train teachers to work in these quote unquote tough schools. They train them, they put them in classes, so they get master's degrees. They put them through a year-long residency program. It's not bad. It's not bad. But back in 2011, when I started teaching, they were doing these things called school turnarounds. Okay. Turnaround schools. They were running these turnaround schools. Okay. This was a very experimental model of education reform. And what they did, and this is going to get dark here. Brace yourself. Not good stuff going on here. Hindsight is 2020. What they did is they would go into these schools that were quote unquote failing, and they would fire everybody. They would fire all the teachers and say, get out of here, old teachers. You haven't changed this school. You haven't been effective. We need to put some fresh faces in here, younger faces that we can control. They also tried to fire the lunch ladies. What did they do? That's why I was always curious. What did they do? Why do you need to fire them? They tried to fire the custodians. Literally, they wanted everybody out so they could get their own people in. And I was part of that. I hate to say it now, looking back, I'm a big union guy now. I believe in, power to the teachers, getting what we deserve. But back then, my mentality was a little bit different. I saw it as a way to get a job. So I took a residency position with AUSL, and I did my residency at a school on the west side of Chicago in Garfield Park. Trained there for a year, and boy, did I get run over by those kids. Man, they did. These kids, and I don't blame them, because I was this, face coming into this school. They knew that I wasn't going to stick around because I was only there training for a year, right? Myself and one other co-teacher who was teaching phys ed with me. They knew we were only there for a year. And here we go. We're barging in there going, hey, everybody needs to listen to us. And 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. Now listen to me. And we're all like doing this drill sergeant stuff that was basically taught to us. And these kids just did not respect us at all. And again, I don't blame them. Looking back now, I don't blame them. But that entire year, I struggled so much. In this book, Teach Like a Champion, the strategies that I'm going to go through helped me survive, helped me eventually get to the point where I could go up in front of these students, deliver a lesson, get through it. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't pretty. You know, those classes back then when I was a resident teacher did not run even a quarter as smoothly as my classes run now, but I survived. And then after the residency was completed, you know, I had my master's degree. I was ready to go into my own turnaround school. So I did. That one was also on the west side of Chicago, Humboldt Park, similar neighborhood, slightly different demographics. But I went in there and, you know, I was one of the new teachers who replaced the old teachers. And I was tasked with creating a phys ed program from scratch. I mean, the teacher that I replaced didn't leave me anything. I mean, there was no structure. She did leave me one thing. I'll tell you what she left. She left me report on her desk, and I don't know if she left it out on purpose, but it was an evaluation report. A principal or somebody had come into her classroom to observe her teaching, and this report basically ripped her practice to shreds. They basically say it. There's notes in there like, these kids aren't listening to you at all. Nobody is on task. They're supposed to be working on serving a volleyball. Most of them are just standing around talking. There is very little learning going on. I mean, just the worst report you could possibly get. I don't know if this was a formal evaluation. It could have been just some jerk coming in, you know, from some organization to observe. I don't know. But she did leave that for me to see. I don't know if that was like her way of saying, hey, good luck. But it struck me. So I had to order all new equipment, and I had to construct a quality physical education program from scratch, basically. And I was mean. I was a drill sergeant. Again, teach like a champion. These strategies will help you build that discipline. Okay? You're going to get quote unquote respect. I'm saying quote unquote a lot. I don't know if that's distracting. I'm doing the air quotes a lot too. If you're watching here, I'm doing a lot of air quotes because, again, my mentality has changed. I want to make that clear. But these strategies, they helped me survive. And I got a lot of compliments in my first few years in that school from my principals. They were like, hey, you know, these kids really respect you. They really listen to you. You know, when you give them instructions, they do it exactly how you say. You don't leave any room for error. You don't let them budge one bit. And that was true. They did respect me. You know what they didn't do, though? I don't think they liked me very much. I was kind of a jerk. I wasn't very approachable. And at the end of the day, I wasn't really myself. Because, you know, they would teach us these toxic practices like, hey, don't smile. These kids, they would say these kids a lot, which that's a red flag. These kids in this neighborhood, you can't smile with them. You can't be happy around these kids. You can't do that. You can't admit. You don't apologize either. If you make a mistake, no, they need to see you as the boss. You're in charge. You're the alpha. Okay? Like, very toxic, very problematic things. And if you're a young teacher and you've heard that advice from anybody, that is BS. It's BS. I'm trying not to curse on this podcast, so I'm not going to say, but it's BS. You can smile. You can be yourself. You can make jokes. You can laugh, and you should do those things. These are children. Okay? Just want to make that abundantly clear. But that was not my mentality back when I first started working at this turnaround school in Chicago. Okay? So let's go back to Teach Like a Champion. All right? As, you know, dated as this book is, and as toxic as some of the things are, there's some strategies that really helped me out, and I think could help you out too. If you're one of these teachers who's really struggling to get the respect of your students, they're just not listening to you, these are some strategies that I think could help you. These are 5 strategies. So here we go. Effective gym room management. Tom Valine, PE teacher, athletic director. Oh, I forgot I was the athletic director. Jeez. I can't imagine doing that again. Here we go. Oh my God. Oh, that's a picture of the dog whisperer. Here we go. I'm already apologizing. We're in the second slide. I put a picture of the dog whisperer on here because my thinking was like, oh, your students, these kids aren't listening to you. But after you do this, they're going to respect you just like these dogs respect him. Oh my God. I'm so embarrassed. See, again, I'm learning parts of this presentation that I got to scrap. I'm getting rid of that picture. Okay. This is what the book looks like. Teach Like a Champion. 49 techniques that put students on the path to college. We're all about the path to college, right? Oh, got to go to college. I don't even know if that's appropriate anymore. DVD included. And on the DVD, they actually have clips. Doug Lemov puts clips of teachers doing these strategies. So here we go. This is the top 5 champion techniques for me as a PE teacher and for you as a PE teacher. First one's called strong voice. Next one, what to do. 100%. Do it again. Positive framing. Every technique has like a catchy name. Okay. Now, strong voice is, I put little memes in here. Look at that. That's Brick from Anchorman. Strong voice. There's 5 principles of strong voice. And most of these, this is just basic public speaking. When you're speaking in front of your class, you have to use a strong voice. Okay. There's 5 principles here. Economy of language. Do not talk over. Do not engage. Square up. Stand still. And quiet power. And again, this is mostly just public speaking skills, like economy of language. Here's a quote from the book. Fewer words are stronger than more. When you need to be all business, be clear and crisp, and then stop talking. So if you ramble too much, it kind of shows weakness. Kids are more likely to pay attention if you just say what you need to say and then stop talking. Maybe let them talk. Turn it over to them. Do not talk over. So here's another quote from the book. Your words must be far and away the most important in the room. If you repeat 10 instructions per day at half a minute per instruction, you will waste 2 full days of school per child over the course of the year. Okay? And there's some truth there. Don't talk over your students. If you're given instructions and there's a kid talking in the back, and you continue to give those instructions because you've given up on that kid, that sends a message to the rest of those kids. They're not dumb. Okay? They're picking up on the fact that you're letting him talk. Why can't I talk? What you're saying must not be that important if you're going to let that kid talk. Okay? So you don't talk over him, right? Do not engage. This has to do with distractions. If a child is doing something to distract other people or distract you, you refuse to engage with that. Here's another quote. Refusing to engage establishes a tone of focused accountability in your classroom. Students cannot change the topic. They don't have the authority to change the topic. Square up, stand still. Show with your body that you are committed to each request. This is cheesy, but again, it's a public speaking principle. When you're speaking, don't fidget. In stand-up comedy, this is something that's really common. I can always tell when I'm watching a comedian and they're green, meaning they don't have a lot of experience. They will play with the microphone cable, or they will play with the mic stand, or they'll play with something else. It's just a lot of fidgeting, a lot of pacing. I used to do it when I was first doing stand-up comedy. But if you stop doing that, you're going to appear stronger. And then quiet power. Okay? Instead of yelling, PE teachers, this is tough for us because we all have the loudest voices in the school. Instead of yelling, though, drop your voice and make students strain to listen. Exude poise and calm. If you're calm, they're more likely to listen. Okay? Oh, there's the dog whisperer again. Okay, that's why. That kind of makes sense, right? Same principles, a little bit similar. It's terrible. It's terrible to compare children to dogs, but there's some similarities, right? Right? Don't cancel me, guys. All right, so that's strong voice. Next strategy is what to do, and the what to do strategy has to do with how you deliver instructions, okay? What exactly are you saying when you deliver instructions to your class, okay? You tell students exactly what you want them to do. Don't waste any time telling them what not to do. This is something that hopefully they did teach you in your undergrad. When you are posting your classroom rules for your gym, keep it simple and don't Tell them what not to, like no hitting. No hitting. That's not a rule. That's not a good rule. Don't put that on your wall, you guys. Don't put that on your wall. Instead, you tell them what to do. Respect personal space. Okay? Keep your hands to yourself. Tell them what to do. All right? Here's another quote. That was all me. This is Doug Lamont here. In schools, we spend a lot of time defining the behavior we want by the negative. Don't get distracted. Stop fooling around. That behavior was inappropriate. These commands are vague, inefficient, and unclear. They force students to guess what you want them to do. And you're also putting ideas in their head, right? Like if you, let's say you put little tape spots on your floor, something that I do, something a lot of us do. And you tell the kids up front, hey, don't pick at those tape spots. Well, some of those kids weren't even considering that. Some of them didn't even see, but now they're looking at the spots going, oh, that's tape. Bet that would be fun to pick at. You know what I mean? So don't tell them what not to do. Tell them what to do. Okay? When giving directions, remember to use SOCS. This is an acronym. SOCS. Good directions are specific, observable, concrete, and sequential. I feel like that's self-explanatory. I don't have to go into that. Okay? So here's some examples of don't say this instead. Don't say pay attention. Don't say pay it. What does that mean? Okay, because that means different things to a lot of different teachers. What does it mean to you? Okay, say this instead. Level 0, hands on your lap, eyes on me. Very simple, okay? But again, you're telling them what to do, not something vague and subjective like pay attention. They don't know what that means, especially kindergartners. You say to a group of kindergartners, hey, pay attention. What does either of those words mean? What is pay? What is that? You mean like money? Attention? What is that? 3 syllables? Are you kidding me? I just learned 2-syllable words. Don't say it, okay? Don't say, listen to me. That's kind of, I say that all the time. Why did I put that on there? No. Okay. Good directions are observable though. So again, if you say, listen to me, what does that look like? Okay? Don't say, listen to me. Instead, say this. Put your hands on your lap. Put your eyes on me. Thumbs up if you understand. There you go. There's a visual check for understanding, a physical check for understanding. Instead of saying, listen to me, make sure they're listening by giving them that check for understanding. Hey, show me a thumbs up if you just heard what I said. Show me a thumbs up if you understand right now. If you don't have any questions, thumbs up. Good directions are concrete. Don't say, stop moving. Don't say, stop moving. Say this instead. Feet flat, arms at your side. There you go. Your feet are flat, glued to the floor. Arms are down at your side. You're not dancing around, not spinning around. Okay? Good directions are sequential. Okay? Don't say this. This is my impression of a first-year teacher trying to get their class to line up. Okay? Don't say this. Line up. Face forward. Stop talking. Be still. What are you doing? Calm down. Okay? Say this instead. Give them the sequence, step by step. Walk to the door at level 0. Stand on the line. Put your arms at your side, nose and toes facing the door. That's something I still say. Nose and toes. Even kindergartners, they know what the nose is. They know where their toes are. Okay? Nose and toes pointing forward, pointing at the door, wherever it happens to be. Okay? Always, always, always. And this is huge. This is something that is so important, guys. So important. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about how important this is. This is one strategy from the book that is universal, timeless, okay? If I make it to retirement, if I'm still teaching in my 60s, I will still die on this hill, okay? You need to distinguish between defiance and incompetence. Do not assume that if a child is not doing what you asked to do, it's because they are defying you on purpose, okay? You respond to defiance with a consequence. Because that's a behavior issue, right? That's a choice. You respond to incompetence with teaching. And when in doubt, assume incompetence. Assume they are not being defiant. Okay? There's a picture of Mr. Rogers, and I just realized I'm recording the screen. You might be seeing text messages that I'm getting right now. Apologize for that, okay? We're going to revisit that whole concept later, all right? Responding to incompetence with teaching, responding to defiance with the consequence, and always know the difference. Third strategy we're talking about here is 100%, okay? This is the one that's probably the least applicable to today because it's just kind of unrealistic. Here's the quote. There is one acceptable percentage of students following your directions, 100%. Less in your authority is subject to interpretation, situation, and motivation. To wield power justly but firmly, you must be keenly aware of how students respond to your directions. Okay? Firm, just, 100%. There's a picture of Elsa from Frozen. I don't know why there's a picture of Elsa. Oh, that was her coronation. She's the queen. Yeah, you're the queen of your classroom. You're the king, whatever. So here is an intervention. How to reach 100% compliance without wasting valuable instruction time or activity time. Always use the least invasive form of intervention. This is important. I like this. This is still good. Nonverbal intervention. A gesture, eye contact, proximity. And this is something that I feel like takes experience. I'm a master with this, okay? I use my face, my location, my gestures, okay? If there's a child in the back corner of my gym, I'm giving instruction and that child is not listening, I can throw a facial expression at them from across the room. I'm very animated, okay? It's the nonverbal intervention. It's the most effective because the rest of the class doesn't even really realize what's going on. But that kid saw my eyes. They saw my eyes get wide. They saw my teeth get together like this. They saw me say, sit down. Whatever. I'm not that scary. Nonverbal intervention, positive group correction. Okay, so this is a good one. New teachers, write this down. Giving a quick verbal reminder to the entire group. Okay? Quick reminder of what you should be doing. You say, we are standing with our feet shoulder width apart right now. That's what we are doing. Now, you might say this when there's one or two students not doing that. You want to give a reminder that's positive, telling them what to do to the whole group. Okay? Don't focus on those two kids. Give a reminder to the whole group. Anonymous individual correction. This is another one. New teachers. This is very effective. Make it explicitly clear. So let's say you do those nonverbal interventions, the positive group correction, and it's still not working. Now is when you kind of zone in on those students who are still not following your instructions. You make it explicitly clear that not everyone is where they need to be, but you're still not naming names. You're still not putting the spotlight on those kids. You say something like, hey, I need 3 more people to fix their feet. There's 2 people in the back who are still staring at the ceiling when you should be looking forward on me. Okay, you're making it clear that not everybody is on the same page. And then private individual correction, okay? Those 3 kids, those 2 kids, still not on task. When you need to name names, you make it private, you make it quick, you move in, redirect, move out. Don't wait for them to respond. You just go over to Jake and say, hey, Jake, I asked everybody to keep their eyes up, and I need to see you doing that. Thanks, bye. Walk away. Walk away. Okay? Don't even give him a chance to respond. Just make it clear that you know, and that he knows it too, that he's off task. All right? Lightning quick public correction when you don't have time to do that. Okay? You don't have time to go up to Jake. We only see our kids for what? 30 minutes a couple times a week, 1 hour a week if you're lucky, right? You don't have time always to do that private individual correction. Then you do a lightning quick public correction, okay? Minimize the stage time for that kid. Jake, turn and face your partner. Good. Keep working. Continue. Consequences. Let's talk about consequences, okay? This is a big one, and I'm going to warn you in advance here. There's some dated stuff coming up. There's some stuff coming up that we're not going to like necessarily. Your quick and painless methods of intervention will only be effective if you occasionally use your external consequences. Now, in the old days, we had these consequence hierarchies. We probably still use these, right? And teachers used to do the thing with the pins, where you had to move your clothespin from like green to yellow to red. That was the thing when I was a kid. That was the thing when I first started teaching. I don't think it's a thing anymore. I think it's considered poor practice to do that. Okay. So that's what's coming up here. Okay. So these were pictures from my gym. I don't know why the rules are sideways. My rules were be safe, be respectful, and be fair. And underneath each rule, if you want to turn your head sideways, if you're watching this, there's bullet points. Like under be safe, it says keep hands to yourself, respect personal space, use equipment responsibly. I still use those. Be respectful, listen and follow directions. Use freeze and listening positions. So back when I first started, I had the freeze position, I had the listening position. I think the only difference was listening position. I think they were sitting. Put equipment away when finished and give your best effort. That's huge in phys ed class because we assess on that. We assess based on their effort and participation. So part of being respectful, respecting me and respecting this class is giving your best effort. And then be fair. Treat classmates fairly with respect. Encourage your teammates. Share space and equipment. I'm struggling to read. The text is really small. Oh, be ready and able to work with anyone. Huge on that. Still huge on that in my class. I teach my kids from the first day. You better be ready and able to work with anybody who I put you with. I rarely let my students pick their partners or pick their groups. Okay? I'm going to put you with somebody who I want you to work with. It might not be your friend. You better be ready. You don't have to be happy about it. I tell them you don't have to eat lunch together. You don't have to hang out after school, but you better be ready to accomplish whatever it is together. Okay? Now, some of you are probably looking at this penalty board going, what is going on with that? That is inappropriate. And you're right. It's dated. We don't do these things anymore. But this was something that helped me survive in Chicago when I was building this program from scratch. I had to lay down the law, had to be strict. At least that's what I told myself. The example consequence hierarchy. The verbal warning is always first. You don't want to send these kids up to the board if you don't have to. Okay. Yellow. Okay. Now it gets serious. Write your name in the yellow box. Okay, that's just a warning. Nothing happens. There's no other consequence. You just got to write your name in the box. Red, write your name in the box, sit for 5 minutes. Simple, very simple, penalty box, penalty board. Black box, write your name in the black box, fill out a reflection form, which I don't have the reflection forms handy. I don't think I ever saved them. I think they're gone. They're lost to history, okay? And then anything beyond that, they'd be outs. Usually I would have to call a dean for anything beyond that. Discipline referral, phone call home. Okay. When I did this, and I don't do this anymore. I don't have a penalty board anymore. I don't need it. My students just listen to me. I don't need it. But when I did this, the idea was I would fill up that yellow box with tons of names. I would send kid after kid, go. Name in the yellow box. You're on yellow. You're on yellow. And I would sweat the small stuff. I would pick out examples of little tiny things that I normally wouldn't care about. But I'm like, no, I'm laying down the law. You need to understand that, I'm the teacher here. Go put your name in the yellow box. But by the end of the year, there was this picture right here. There's a picture of my penalty board. There's one name in the yellow box. That is what the board typically looked like in March, April, and May. Towards the end of the year, I just didn't need it because I top-loaded up front. I front-loaded. I was looking for the right term there. I front-loaded on the discipline. So by the end of the year, I didn't need it that much, okay? Last thing for 100%. This is a quote that I like this quote. I still like this quote. Ignoring misbehavior is the most invasive form of intervention because it becomes more likely that behavior will persist and expand. It's going to get worse. If you ignore it, if you don't address it, it's going to get worse. So address it, especially now in the beginning of the year. And again, I've got pictures of Elsa and, oh, look, there's Odin from the movie Thor. All right. I'm talking a lot, so I'm chugging water. I'm trying to keep everything moving in there. Okay, do it again. I love this strategy. Do it again. I still use it every day. It's very simple. It's something that adapts perfectly to physical education. Okay? Quite simply, When students fail to complete a basic task, you should ask them to do it again, exactly how you asked them to do it in the first place. Now, as PE teachers, we naturally use this technique. Every time we ask a student to practice a physical skill to perfection, we should use the same approach when practicing procedures and transitions, okay? Practice makes perfect, right? Or practice makes permanent, however you like that expression, okay? Here is 7 reasons why do it again is effective. Number 1, it shortens the feedback loop. Okay. Number 2, it sets a standard of excellence, not just compliance. No, do it again. And this time, do it how I asked you to do it. Do it excellent. Okay. Number 3, there's no administrative follow-up. You don't have to do any work here. You don't have to fill out anything. No papers, no referrals. Okay. You're just practicing. Number 4, there's team accountability. Ooh, we're team building with this one. If you give the entire class a direction, and let's say 5 of them do it wrong. Let's say you tell the class to walk to the door and line up, and 5 of the kids run to the door. Well, as a team, we need to do it again. Not just those 5 kids, all of us. We're all going to do it. We're all going to practice it because we are a team. We're accountable to each other. You're not going to embarrass those 5 kids. You're going to make everybody do it again. Okay? And the kids who did it right, they're not necessarily going to mind because they're not going to see it as a punishment. This is not a punishment. It just is a logical consequence. It's just team building. Okay? Number 5, it always ends with success. You're going to end with doing it correctly, no matter how many times we have to practice it. Okay? Number 6, it's a logical consequence. It's the most logical consequence. This is what happens in real life. At your job, if you do something wrong, you have to do it again. You have to fix it. And then number 7, it's reusable. You use it every day, okay? And then there's quotes that go along with all of these. Shortens the feedback loop. This is a quote, having kids stay in for recess 3 hours after the action that caused that consequence is less likely to create a disincentive. If the reaction comes immediately after, while the original action is fresh in the student's mind, the two will be more deeply associated. Okay? Standard of excellence. I'm going to skim through these. No administrative follow-up. We already went over these. I'm just getting long here. Okay? Team accountability ends with success. Logical consequence. Reusable. Okay. Here's the thing. This is something to be very careful with here. Okay? Do it again is practice, not punishment. If you use it as a punishment, you're doing it wrong. It's not going to be effective. You're just going to create resentment among your students, among all of them, especially if you do the team thing. These kids are going to be, wait, what do you mean we got to practice it again? They did it wrong. I did it right. Why do I have to practice it again? No. You're not punishing them. You're not angry. Okay? We're just practicing. If students feel that they're being punished by doing it again, then the purpose has not been communicated well. Consequences should always be logical. Do it again is more often than not the most logical consequence. Okay? When can you use this strategy in the gym? Here's some examples. Okay? A class entering the gym from the hallway. You should have a procedure for that. A class lining up to exit the gym. Okay? A class transitioning to and from the whiteboard. If you use a whiteboard or a smart board or a screen in your gym. A class transitioning from one activity to another. Rotating from one station to the next, rotating or transitioning from warm-up into a game. A small group transitioning from one station to another. A student taking out or putting away equipment. You have a procedure for that. You don't want them to throw the rackets from across the gym into the bucket. No, you want them to walk all the way up to the bucket, drop it in gently. So when in doubt, do it again and do it better. Do it exactly how I asked you to do it, okay? Positive framing. Here we go. We're ending on a positive. I think this is the last one. Here's a quote from Doug Lamothe. People are motivated by the positive far more than the negative. This fact should influence the way you teach. Use positive framing. Using positive framing means making interventions to correct student behavior in a positive and constructive way. Okay? People are okay. Oh, no, that's the same quote. There's a picture of Richard Simmons. Oh, he was still alive when I gave this presentation. I miss Richard Simmons. He was a great guy. I could do a whole episode on Richard Simmons. He's one of my heroes, okay? Follow these 6 rules for positive framing. Number 1, live in the now. Number 2, assume the best. Number 3, allow plausible anonymity. We're going to get in. I'm going to explain all of these because this is good stuff. This is not dated stuff. This is good stuff. Number 4, build momentum and narrate the positive. That's huge. Don't turn this off. Don't you dare. If you do, come back and listen to the rest because this is the good one. Number 5, challenge your students. Number 6, talk expectations and aspirations. So, live in the now. This is these slides say bad practice versus good practice. So here's the bad practice. Bad, drawing attention to past negative behavior. Okay, for example, hey, Mikey, stop tapping your feet. You just drew attention to the fact that Mikey was tapping your feet. Instead, good practice, describe the behavior you want to see. Mikey, I want to see your feet flat. I want to see your feet glued to the floor. We're not tapping right now. We're not moving right now. You're distracting people. I want to see your feet flat, okay? Assume the best. This is a huge one, okay? Bad practice, equating noncompliance with defiance. We've already been over this. It's worth going over again, okay? You should never, ever, ever assume that just because students aren't doing what you ask them to do, that they are defying you on purpose. Don't take it personally. Assume that they just don't know what you want them to do, okay? Assuming noncompliance is the result of incompetence. This is a great quote right here from Doug Lemov. Problematic as he is, as inexperienced of an educator that he is, this is a great quote right here. Assuming the worst makes you appear weak. As the teacher, you appear weak. If you show that you assume your students are always trying to comply with your wishes, you're demonstrating the assumption that you're in charge. If a student, okay, let's say, I'm going to think of an example for phys ed class, tennis rackets again, okay? If a student is waving their racket around like crazy, not really following the technique, they're just going nuts with it, and they're dropping it, slamming it on the ground. If you assume that that student is doing that on purpose, you're going to look weak. You're going to look weak. Instead, assume that that student is clueless. I have a story for this one. It's just coming to me now. This was part of my presentation. I had a student named Carl. He was a second grader, and Carl was just out of his mind. Carl was constantly bouncing off the walls. And I recall one day we were playing with tennis rackets. Carl had dropped his racket like 4 times. And my instinct, this was back in the early days when I would flip out over nothing. My instinct was to yell at him, Carl, stop it. Stop dropping the racket. I told you not to do that. That's exactly what I told you not to do. But I took a deep breath and I calmed down and I said, Carl, come here. If you keep dropping the racket like that, you're gonna break it. And Carl looked at me with the most confused look on his face. And he said, these can break? And I look at him and I go, Carl, almost anything can break if you drop it on the ground that many times. And he goes, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And for the rest of class, he didn't drop the racket. The behavior was fixed. Now, would the behavior have been fixed if I had screamed at him and said, go put your name on yellow, go put your name on red? I don't know. Probably not, because it's not effective. Being calm and explaining to the kid why we do what we do, the reason behind the rule, doing that calmly is so much more effective. It makes you appear so much stronger in their eyes and more nurturing. They're not scared of you because you took the time to explain why we need to take care of the equipment. Okay? Get off my soapbox there. Allow plausible anonymity. Here's an example of this one. So, bad practice. Embarrassing individual students by lecturing them in front of the class. It's not good. Embarrassing students, like those really defiant students who really just get on your nerves all the time. It sometimes, I hate to say it, it feels good to embarrass them, right? Like that kid, they're just not paying attention. So you call them out and say, hey, Derek, what did I just say? Repeat those instructions. You know he wasn't listening. So why are you doing that? Okay? It's bad practice. It doesn't look good, especially in this day and age. They're talking about it on social media. You don't want to be that teacher, all right? Good practice. Allow anonymity at first. Don't be quick to name names. That's just simple. Don't be quick to name names. Go back to those 100% strategies, those quick call outs like, hey, there's somebody in this row over here they're staring at the ceiling. You need to look, everybody should keep their eyes on me. Something's quick and simple like that. Okay, here's the big one. I hope you're listening. Narrate the positive. When kids are doing what you ask them to do, the positive behaviors, narrate it. Here's what it is. Bad practice, drawing attention to negative behaviors. Good practice, consistently and constantly narrating good behaviors. Okay, so when you give a direction and you say go, you immediately look for 3 students who are following your directions perfectly. And then you say this, oh, I see Derek walking with his hands to himself. I see Samantha has a big bubble of personal space. I see Anthony is catching. He's in a catching position. His hands are up, ready to catch. You're not praising them. You're simply drawing attention to the fact that they're doing it right. So now the rest of the class looks at them, sees what they're doing, and they do it too. They fix their behavior. You put the spotlight on the kids who deserve it, who are following your instructions. You narrate it. It's not the same as praising them. You're not saying, oh, thank you so much, Samantha, for having your personal space. Great. You don't have to praise them for that. That's simple. Those are your instructions. Those are non-negotiables. Don't praise them. Simply acknowledge that they're doing it correctly. Very effective. Start narrating. Do this tomorrow. Do it with pick your most challenging class. Okay? Do it and film it. Don't share it with anybody. Don't film your students and put them on social media. Don't do that. Do it for your own personal records. Turn your phone on with the microphone on. Record it. When you give the class an instruction, make sure it's something simple, like walking to the door to line up. Pick 3 students who are walking quietly, say their name, narrate them, and watch the effect that has on the rest of the class. Y'all, if there was one practice that I could get all of you to start doing, it would be this. Okay? And if you're a veteran teacher, you're nodding along right now. You're like, yep, yep. If you're a new teacher, again, this is something they don't teach you in undergrad. Okay? So give it a try. You learned it from me. Positive framing. All right. Here's one. I'm not familiar. I don't remember this one, but I'm going to read through it with you. Bad practice. This is a bad practice. Using the same exact routines and procedures with the same exact intensity every single day. Yeah, I guess that can be boring. Good practice. Constantly encouraging students to take it up a notch. Okay. Yeah, this is good. Look for opportunities to create challenges and fun competition. So here's some examples down here for PE. Example. I'm going to have the red team put away their equipment first, and then the blue team, I want to see who shows the most self-control and excellence. That's what I wrote on here. Excellence. All right, here's another one. Oh, last time I saw 8 people jog for the whole minute without stopping to walk. I want to see if we can get at least 12 people this time. So you're constantly pushing them to improve. And I guess that's good. That's good. All right. Expectations and aspirations. Bad practice. Praising students for doing a good job of following your directions. Why is that bad? Well, because it's not about you. Good practice. Praising students for becoming more physically fit individuals with good self-control. And I would add confidence, because that's the most important thing to me as a PE teacher. Do I care about you being more physically fit? Yes, but I can't really control that. I can't help you with that. I only see you for 90 minutes a week. But can I help you become more confident? Yes. So I'm definitely adding that to this presentation. Okay. Your students' motivation should not be to please you. This is a quote on the bottom of the slide. This is from me, not Doug Lamoff. Your students should understand the benefits of participating in your class. And your job is to help them improve their levels of personal fitness and self-control. And again, confidence, what I would add there. Elementary physical education teachers have one very distinct advantage over literacy and math teachers. Most students love our class. Have you noticed that? They don't dread going to reading like they don't dread coming to your class like some of them dread going to reading. Okay? take advantage of this. Okay? Stay positive. You have no excuse for not being positive. You should be the most positive. All right? And I'm talking to myself from 10 years ago. I wish I would have said this to myself. I was presenting this to other teachers, but I was being so strict. Okay? So, this is the end of the slideshow. Champion teacher looks like a dog whisperer. No, we're scrapping that. Mr. Rogers. Yes, this is a picture of Mr. Rogers on here. Oh, another R.I.P. Elsa from Frozen. Okay, that's a good one. Oh, Coach Boone from Remember the Titans. I forgot I put him on here. Oh, Richard Simmons at the end right there. Okay. At the end of the slideshow, there's a link to how to purchase the book. That was my old email address. It's gymclasspod@gmail.com now. So that's the end of that presentation. Teach like a champion. Now, this, again, I mentioned there was another book that has been more influential on me. I don't have a slideshow for that one. Okay? It's called Culture, I think. I'm even blanking on the name. This is bad, y'all. Culturally and Linguistically Responsive Teaching and Learning by a guy named Dr. Shiraki Holly. Now, this book it does have specific practices in it, but it's more of a mindset. It's more of it's more changing your understanding, your worldview, and how you see your students. Instead of just seeing them as a homogeneous group of young people, you view them through the lens of culture, okay? Now, Dr. Holly, I don't recall, I believe he actually was a teacher. I had the privilege of actually hearing him speak at my current school. This was like 5 years ago now. It's been a while. But we did a whole series, professional development series on this book and this practice, culturally responsive teaching and learning. And I recall sitting in that professional development, listening to this man speak, and I was captivated. I was blown away. I was thinking to myself, this is not just the answer. This is not just about teaching. This goes beyond. This is the cure for everything. Everybody should hear this. In every business, in every corner of the workforce, this is the cure for racism. Because he talks a lot about race and culture. And I was blown away. And the number one thing I kept saying to myself is like, I wish I had this when I taught in Chicago. I wish I could have combined this with Teach Like a Champion. And I think maybe I would still be teaching in Chicago. I don't know. I ended up leaving CPS and moving to a suburban district because I needed to be a little closer to home. The commute was really, I was driving I was spending like 3 hours in the car every day. But I was also burnt out. I was burnt out because I was doing this Doug Lemov Teach Like a Champion stuff. I was being a drill sergeant. I was not myself. I was really burnt out. And being this culturally responsive teaching book really gave me what I needed back then. So I remember thinking to myself, I wish I had this when I was in Chicago. All right. Now, pausing to drink some seltzy here. Like I said, there are some specific strategies in this book, like call and response, stuff like that. But it's more of a mindset. And the mindset is this. You look at your students through the lens of culture. And we think about culture, we usually think about race and ethnicity, which there is a such thing as race culture. Like there is a culture surrounding your race and your ethnicity, right? But that's not all. There's rings of culture. For example, there's age culture. Young kids have their own culture that has nothing to do with their race, the color of their skin, or their ethnicity, where they're from. It's youth culture. It's skibbity toilet. It's 6'7", which I still don't even understand what the heck that means. I don't want to know. Don't explain it to me. My students are young. They don't do that stuff. I don't want to know. Okay? That's part of their culture. Millennials. I'm a millennial. I'm going to be turning 40. We have our own culture. What's that? You remember that? Boomers have their own culture. You know? Age culture is a thing. There's a separate ring of culture for your nationality, which your nationality is not the same as your race or your ethnicity. Nationality is where you're from, physically, location. Like, for example, somebody who lives in the United Kingdom versus somebody who lives in the United States. Those two people might have the same skin color, but they're not from the same culture. The United Kingdom has a different culture. They're all about fish and chips and soccer and being nice. I don't know. I've never been to the United Kingdom. People in the United States, different culture. Very, individualist, hardcore, grind all day. I don't know. I'm not being very nice to my own national identity here. But again, that's an example of culture that has nothing to do with race and ethnicity. So when you look at your students, you keep in mind that all of them are coming from all these different cultures. Every single one of them individually is a melting pot of different cultures. Now, when you combine this student's 3 different cultures that impact who they are and how they behave, you combine that with the rest of them, that's a huge melting pot. That's almost chaos right there. It's almost like a mess, but it's a beautiful mess because that's what America's all about, right? Diversity is our strength. If you think otherwise, you're wrong, and I'll debate you all day, just not now. We'll save that for another day, okay? So you respect your students' cultures, okay? You validate their culture. You don't just respect it and accept it. You say, great, I validate your home culture. Whatever you're doing right now, I validate that. I understand that that's part of who you are at home. But here at school, in my classroom, we're building a whole new culture. Us coming together with all our different cultures, we're building a new culture. In this classroom, this is what I want you to do, and here's why. I want you to be still and listen while I'm talking. Don't talk while I'm talking. That's a cultural behavior, guys. You have to learn to distinguish between cultural behaviors and non-compliance. This kind of ties back into the whole non-compliance versus defiance thing. You have to learn to distinguish that, okay? Not every behavior that you see as negative in your classroom is tied to, what's the word? Some of it is cultural. And in that situation, if it's a cultural behavior, you don't punish them, but that doesn't mean you have to put up with it. Like, for example, if a student's talking over you, that might be a cultural thing. That might be something they do at home. That might be something that they're used to. They're just used to that. Everybody gets to talk when they feel like talking. That's a cultural behavior, okay? You don't punish that, but that doesn't mean you put up with it. You simply say, okay, I understand that might be how you do things at home, but here in my classroom, you need to stop talking when I'm talking. You need to listen to the teacher. And not just me, you need to listen to your classmates too. When they're talking, you need to be silent and listen, because in this classroom, in our culture here, that's how we show that we're listening. Okay? So you are distinguishing between those negative behaviors, like, for example, a child hitting another kid. That's not a cultural behavior. That's a negative behavior. You come down on that. They need to keep their hands to themselves. That has nothing to do with culture, okay? But simply talking over you, talking out of turn, that might be a cultural behavior. There might not be any malice there. That child might be completely unaware that they need to be quiet when you're talking, okay? It might be brand new. It might be a new concept for them. Respect that. It's all about just having patience, validating these kids, and building your own classroom culture. Within this book, there's this acronym they use a lot. It's VAB, V-A-B-B, okay? You validate and affirm their home culture, and then you build and bridge to your classroom culture. Again, to use the example of talking out of turn. I understand that's what you might do at home, but here in this classroom, we need to be quiet when there's another speaker talking, because that's how we show that we're listening. So you're building that bridge to your classroom culture, okay? And this, I don't have like I said, I don't have a slideshow presentation for this book. I'm going to be adding it. Okay. I'm going to expand on this because I feel like this was very scattered. Like you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I learned a lot about Doug Lamave from this episode, but I'm still pretty fuzzy on Dr. Holly. Trust me, it's awesome stuff. And I'm going to present it. If you live in Illinois, I encourage you to come to the IAHPERD convention in December. I'm going to be kind of going back through all this, talking about my journey as a teacher and my classroom management strategies. And I'm going to, add this into the presentation and talk about, hey, this is where I am now. And, at this point in my career with my classroom management, my students, they just listen to me. I've got the magic touch. Like, I don't know. And this is how I got there, though. I'm not just going to tell you, I don't know what to tell you. These kids, they just listen to me. I'm a veteran, I guess. I got the magic touch. No, I'm going to tell you how I got here. Okay? It started with Teach Like a Champion. It ended with culturally responsive teaching. Okay? So, thoughts? Give me some feedback, y'all. I think this episode, is going to end up being pretty long. Okay? Now, I want you to know, too, and I meant to say this in the beginning of the episode, some issues with classroom management are outside of our control. And for example, I'm going to give you an example. You go into these Facebook groups, okay, where people air their grievances. You read a post from a teacher that's like, these kids just aren't listening to me. How do I get them to listen? You do a little digging and find out that their class size is absolutely absurd. 80 kids in the gym with one teacher. That's a real thing that happens. These districts that operate in non-union states where there's no strict language in the contract about class size, they will cram 2, 3, 4 classes in the gym at a time. And at that point, there is no strategy that I can give you that's going to help you with that. At that point, when I see stuff like that, when I hear about teachers teaching with these ridiculous class sizes or teaching outside in 110-degree weather because their school doesn't have a gym, at that point, my answer is go unionize. Get a union. That's where you start. You have to be able, that's outside of your control, right? Like, you gotta make some demands. You gotta put your foot down, and you gotta fight for your rights. You gotta fight for what these kids need, what you need, okay? So if you're in a situation like that, and you try these strategies and they just aren't working, that's not your fault. And I'm not telling you to quit. We need good teachers. Don't give up. Just be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself and be patient with those kids because they didn't ask for that either. Those kids they did not ask to be crammed into your classroom like a bunch of sardines. They would like to have the gym to themselves. Every child deserves this. Every class deserves to have the gym reserved for a specific time period to themselves. They deserve to have you, the teacher, to themselves. They shouldn't have to share you with 4 other classes. And by the way, they deserve a gym. You deserve a gym. You deserve an air-conditioned gym. Now I'm getting, that's a little luxurious there. That's so you're like, oh, good now. Air conditioning, what's he going to ask for next? Projector? No, but seriously, we do deserve those things, and we have to be willing to fight for them. Because that, at the end of the day, we need that stuff to be effective, right? Our students deserve it. You deserve it. So, I'm going to wrap this up, okay? The email address is gymclasspod@gmail.com. Send me your feedback. Send me your thoughts, okay? Did you love something I said? Did you hate something I said? I really need some ratings. You guys, I need you to go on Apple, Spotify. Give me a rating. Please make it 5 stars. Please make it 5 stars. I don't need a 4 or 3-star rating. I need some 5-star ratings to get this thing on more people's radar. Phoenix. If you live in Arizona, please come see me at Mic Drop Comedy Club in Chandler. That's on September 21st. Very excited for the show. I love to have a nice-sized audience, and I love performing for fellow teachers, especially PE teachers. So come on out, bring your family. It's Sunday night. A lot of us probably have to work the next day, but whatever. Call in sick. Don't be a hero. All right. So thanks for tuning in to Gym Class Podcast Episode 3. I will see y'all next week.
The Fitness Gram Pacer Test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test. A single lap should be completed each time you hear this sound. Your test is over. Your test is over.